Okay, so welcome back to the Bootleg Corner. It is a new year and I hope you had lovely celebrations to end the last one, and this one hopefully begins with positivity and endless blessings. With that in mind, we are back on the Bootleg Corner. It is movie review hours once again, and this time it is Marvel's What If Season 3. We had one episode per day during the week of Christmas, and its finale saw some surprises which either soured or excited the viewers. But in the end, I am here to give you my views of this season, and let me just start off by saying I wasn't disappointed. Now, don't get me wrong, because as at the end of season 2, I released 2 reviews, one commending the combination of the series and another critiquing the idea of the series itself. Now, as I said at the time, we already got that in the movies, and don't get me wrong, the What If series were very nice, but what if they did a what if that actually explored the what if? I mean, forgive the alliterations, but what if Marvel actually followed the lead of Love, Death and Robots, allowed the animators creative freedom to produce 8 standalone episodes per season with different art styles, characters and villains, all from Marvel of course, but with no tangible connection to one another. The world building, storyline packing, setup after setup up to the big points line in the final episode might be working now, but what are Marvel scared of to test up new ideas, or has it never come across their thoughts? Love, Death and Robots had that feeling of uncertainty and suspense clearly lacking in the What If series. Since there is no need to connect the stories and episodes, each episode had the freedom and agency to end anyhow it liked. No hero to propel, no protagonist to save, since that was the end anyway, so why not make the episodes as random as possible? And all that still holds true today. That's why I said I wasn't disappointed, because the bar had already been set so low that it would require some cosmic level of incompetence to fall beneath expectations. But going episode by episode, there was nothing particularly exciting or organized about this What If series. Instead, it looks like an attempt at contract fulfillment rather than a carefully planned project. Episode 1 gave us a Hawk evolution that somehow led to Kaiju Hawks, and it seemed that the creators had forgotten what project they were working on. Now, I'm not really well versed in Hawk comics, but from the little I've read I heard about, a Kaiju Hawk has never been part of the story. They brought in the Mech Avengers as part of the story, and their transformation was so laughable that they failed to show how they put the pieces together in the first place. Episode 2 was probably made for those who watched the Agatha and Miss Marvel series, as well as bringing in Kingo, a very forgettable character from that Eternals movie. In between the dancing and finding out that Agatha is somehow powerful enough to take the powers of just about anyone, except there's a caveat that she can only take the powers of Celestials and their creations. Episode 3 brings the Red Guardian and the Winter Soldier, and my alarm bells went off when the Red Guardian was visibly showing signs of going rogue, and yet is allowed to leave Russia when they know he is unhappy about the Winter Soldier's mission. We get no explanation why this guy is Ant-Man or his connection, if any, to Professor Pym, but that is just how it is for this series. Episode 4 was just one of the worst things I have ever seen animated, with a Howard the Duck and Darcy Lewis couple story mixed with a baby kidnapping and cameos from a multitude of characters, including Thanos, who was once again made to look not even 1% of his live action character. The less said about that episode, the better for everyone, because personally I have just deleted it from my memory. Episode 5 was the first episode with any stakes involved, where the earth is cracked in pieces after the emergence of a celestial, and a tyrant named Carson Beck is using nanobots and stack technology to effectively rule the world. It is up to Riri Williams and the Alliance to stop him, and she nearly loses if it weren't for the intervention of the Watcher breaking his sacred oath yet again, as he did in season 2. Episode 6 brings Shang-Chi into a Wild Western era, only he doesn't have his 10 rings and he is in a chase for the hood who he believes has taken his sister. The only thing that stood out for me in this episode was Walter Goggins, who voiced Sonny Butch, and I lit up the moment I heard his voice because after all, it is Walter Goggins. Episode 7 brings in the Exiles, at least that's what they call them in this series, and we see Storm Rolling John here, the Thunderhammer, a grown Betty, Captain Carter, and finally Kahori. Uatu the Watcher has been taken prisoner by other Watchers, of which we found out in the previous episodes that Uatu wasn't the only one of his kind, which then begs the question of what the other Watchers are trying to do if Uatu is watching over the multiverse. Is there any other multiverse that requires a Watcher or some higher planes of existence where other Watchers are stationed? Well, that's a question for another day, but this episode has them trying to break into the 5th dimension, and personally, to me, this was a serious what if. There should have been immediate and serious consequences for their attempt. But then this is a series with loophole after loophole, and they find that their next best course is to look for Infinity Ultron, since he is the only one who has been powerful enough to sense the Watcher and even enter the 5th dimension before. Captain Carter shows the only lick of sense displayed in this series so far, opting to go for it alone, even if it is a boneheaded move, but she has been the only one to face Ultron and survive among this lot, and she would rather do it alone than watch their deaths all over again. Then some way somehow, Ultron has somehow repented of his murderous ways and seeks redemption by leading the Exiles to the 5th dimension to rescue both Captain Carter and Uatu the Watcher. From here on, we get some of the most choreographed fuckery and plot armor we've seen to end the year in episode 8. 90% of this episode could have been avoided if we didn't somehow have Uatu making all members of the Exiles Watchers in their own right and giving them the same powers as 5th dimension beings, and all that shows is a refusal of Marvel Studios to tell grounded stories or deal with tragedy of their heroes on the big screen. No amount of fighting and visual effects in the final battle could hide the fact that this was a funky storyline that rendered the position and powers of the Watchers ordinary, as if just about anyone could become a Watcher by reciting the words. And normally I will ask how this idea passed muster in the pitching stage, but then it is Marvel where anything goes, so that's just that. Beyond that, the fighting was cool in parts, but even if, and I repeat, even if the Exiles had the same powers as the Watchers, there was no way they should have been fighting on the same wavelength. The Watchers have had these powers for an eternity. They have watched every battle these guys have been in, and still there was no difference on the battlefield. Come on, Marvel, respect your audience. Captain Carter was given center stage for this series, and they've even gone as far as to give her Kang's time chair, and it is decisions like this done off screen that make everyone question her even more, because I can see no reality where she manages to defeat Kang even if they replay it 1,000 times. 5th dimension beings are not supposed to be throwing blows with mortals, no matter how much their new powers have taken effect or not. And I, like so many others, are relieved that this series has ended, because for all the cool stories available in such a premise that provides a blank slate, it is a miserable state of affairs what Marvel have come up with to date. I said it in a previous review that Marvel could have taken a leaf out of the book of Love, Death and Robots, but the success of the Endgame saga has trapped them in a merry-go-round of multiverse building and connected storylines. In the end, they've produced a series with no stakes and no suspense, so it is definitely no big deal that its production has come to an end this fast. We'll be watching to see what their next projects look like, with Captain America, Brave New World and Fantastic Four scheduled to drop this year. I'm still your host, the Bootleg God on the Bootleg Corner. Don't forget to subscribe, keep it locked in, and I'll be back.